Hey guys, Saf coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. So in today's video, I have a new clan boss team that I'm going to showcase. This is a bit of an experimentalist, a bit of a sort of an enthusiast clan boss build. It's not something that I'd necessarily recommend you instantly go and build after watching this video, but it is cool and a bit of fun nonetheless. So since we've had some brand new champions come out into the game, we've got much more different options we can run with clan boss, especially these new Sylvan Watchers factions. I immediately thought Ruella would be great for clan boss because she brings decreased defense and weaken, but alongside a turn meter fill and an increased crit rate. We also have White Dryad Nia that can reset cooldowns, although she's not in this tune. I'm looking at other clan boss tunes with that champion. And then of course we already have the Demitha Heiress comps and some of the other champions. So my goal here was to try and basically get everyone into a 3-1 team. But at the same time also extend the crit rate buff that Ruella gives so we can run the entire team at 70% crit rate. And we have managed to achieve this team. So if anyone hasn't used the Deadwood Jedi clan boss calculator, head over to deadwoodjedi.com, create a free account, or upgrade and pay for the good services that Deadwood provides us here with this really cool calculator. We can basically build out the team and check that the speed tune is going to work in this calculator, and that is what I've done here. So you can see we've got a bit of a setup early on, but eventually we get to turn 6 and the team falls into a consistent and regular pattern. That's what we mean by a speed tune. So in this pattern, we've got Demitha as our unkillable champion. She's going to place block damage at the end of every turn, and she is running 3-1, which means she is taking 3 turns in every 1 clan boss turn. She has got the extend all buffs here on the A2. So the combination of Demitha's unkillable and extension means we can ensure that we've got increased crit rate running throughout the entire fight. Alongside this, we've got Ruella. Ruella is going to be giving us that crit rate buff, a little bit of turn meter boost, and all of our priority debuffs. Then we have Seeker providing the boost, which we need to get into this speed tune. Without Seeker, this wouldn't work. And then we have just a DPS option in Alika, with Heiress coming in as our speed booster and pseudo cleanser. Now I say pseudo cleanser here because in this team, you ideally would want Heiress to go first, but that is not possible. So unfortunately, with the Heiress variant of this tune, you're going to have to deal with stun targeting issues. So we can fix this issue, which I'll go into in a little bit of detail, to ensure that the main champions as part of this team do not get stunned. But it does mean that we lose a bit of damage as a result of this run. In the Elva Autumnborn variant, this is not a problem. You can basically force different champions to have different things, and you don't even need to worry about the stun. I'll show that link at the end of the video also. So what kind of speeds have we got here? It is an enthusiast build. We've got a 345 speed Demitha, a 315 speed Heiress, a 207 speed Seeker, and a 271 Ruella, and a 243 Alika. Now Ruella isn't so much of a problem. She's got 112 base speed, so it's much easier to hit these numbers. We do have her slightly higher than she needs to be for Void, because when it comes to Spirit Affinity, we need more speed on Ruella. So this speed is allowing all affinities to be covered. We don't have really any sort of complicated delays. It is full auto from the start. We just have a 1 turn delay on Heiress and a 1 turn delay on Ruella's A3 here. We are prioritizing Demitha's A2 instead of her A3. And then it's just auto. We don't really run any sort of abilities other than A1 with Alika. That's where all her damage exists. So you can see it's full auto. The areas of concern is obviously the stun at the first one. We can't really have Seeker taking the stun on the first rotation, which means we need a solution to ensure that Seeker never gets stunned. And then when it comes to the main tune, we can't really have Ruella, Heiress, or Seeker or Demitha taking the stun. Seeker and Demitha here can take the stun, but they can't take it up here. And if you can see, like, we don't have any sort of block debuffs. So if Demitha doesn't take, if Demitha takes the stun here, she's going to be out of sync here because Heiress is not cleansing. So in other words, you kind of need the stun to always go on your DPS champion in this tune, which means you do need to pivot it for every single affinity. You need an affinity DPS for this tune. This is why I'm saying with the Heiress variant, this is not recommended for you to build, but it is fun to watch. So let's take a look at some champion builds here then. So I have managed to get all my champions in tune. If you didn't catch my stream last night, I built all these champions on stream. The VOD is up on this channel. I stream Monday to Thursday now on YouTube. We do various different things. We do Hydra, we do champion builds, we did a clan boss rebuild of different champions. If you want to learn how to build champions in the optimizer for this type of clan boss team, go check that video out. But we did manage to build a Seeker, Demitha here, Demitha is running at 345 speed, 75% crit rate, so technically she's got a bit too much crit rate, 3.1k attack and 141% crit damage. She only hits once, but she still outputs a decent amount of damage that you should consider putting some damage on her. We do have a very new banner that we managed to get here, a 21+8. We got lucky on stream last night with some glyphs. And she is rocking some triple roll speeds. This will be the hardest one to build, but we managed to get it done pretty nicely. You know, we could get some more space in here. We were able to do this without touching Arbiter as well, which is quite impressive. So that's the Demitha build. We then got a Ares build. Now, I did have my Ares in Toxic before, but because of Ares's base speed being 94, it's much more difficult to get her up to these high speeds. But we did manage to get her at 4.7k attack, 180% crit damage with 318 speed, which is nice. Then we got the Seeker. Seeker is in Toxic gear. He can run a lot slower at 208 speed. We got a 5.1k attack and 259% crit damage with 73% crit rate. Then we have also got Ruella. Ruella is the new champion. She hits 3 times on the A1. Doesn't really do any sort of effects other than hits 3 times for the clan boss. Then we get this decreased defense weaken that happens all the time. That will work even on weak affinity. It was pretty good reliable when we tested it last night on stream. It seemed to land it fairly regularly. And then we've got this buff here. Fills all the turn meters of all allies and places an increased crit rate buff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So we have got her at 272 speed, 74% crit rate, 254% crit damage, and 4.6k attack. Now, she is in an accuracy banner because obviously the Silver Watches have just come out. I do not have that many banners. I think I only have this accuracy banner. I think I've just got this one. It dodged the speed. But in terms of attack banners, I actually do not have an attack banner yet. So we have this, but we need the speed. So until I can get some more Silver Watches artifacts, this build is always going to be a bit more tricky. But we did get a double on a ring, which is quite nice. We've got a pretty good amulet. And then we're just running Toxic on her also, because we can afford to do it due to the fact she's got 112 base speed. Base speed is very important when you're building champions. So we've got her in Toxic. And then finally, we have got the Alika, who is running at 255 speed. So she's a little bit faster than the calculator that we had before. This was initially to test with Nightmare, but I think I can rebuild this and change the delays around for the Nightmare run for this team so that we don't have to run her faster for Ultra Nightmare than she needs to. This would give us far more damage back. It would probably give us an extra 600 to 700 attack if we dropped about 10 to 15 speed here. So those are the champions. She is just in sort of a broken sets of crit damage and speed and cruel. In terms of masteries, the way we get around the stun targeting, we basically have Alika not having steadfast, but everyone else will have steadfast. The clan boss will not target someone who has steadfast if it can target someone else who doesn't in the right scenarios. As we haven't got sort of increased defense, we don't have ally protection, we don't have anything else, everyone else has block damage. He looks to see who's got steadfast, and then he'll pick that. The only difference is affinity. If a champion is weak affinity and you don't have an alternative, then he will pick this over the steadfast. So if I run this team, I don't put a spirit damage dealer in place of Alika, and we're on Magic Clan Boss. The Magic Clan Boss will pick on Ruella because affinity trumps the steadfast. We've got 2 spirit champions. One of them has steadfast, one of them does not. It will pick the one that does not. That's why we have to pivot Alika's position in different teams. We don't really need the defensive tree masteries. I know some people prefer to take deterrence for block damage comps, but the average math that this works out is about 1 to 2 attacks per clan boss run. In my opinion, I'd rather the Law of Steel, which gives me more attack from cruel sets or more crit damage from crit damage sets, more speed from speed. Ruella obviously will go Giant Slayer because she's a triple hitter. Everyone else is going War Master. Now, it's quite nice potentially to take Master Hexer if you have got toxic sets. I've basically taken Master Hexer on Ruella for the debuffs and the toxic set. It just helps keep the toxic set going, and 2 should be fine. So that is the team. In terms of the AI setup, is open with the A2 for Ruella, but probably tell her to do A3 because most of the newer champions AI is a bit wonky. We always want her to do this over this one. Alika, we just disable the 2 abilities. The A1 is good enough. It's much stronger. That this hits really hard, but this will hit just as hard if it hits twice. The more A1s we have, the more chance we'll do more damage. Ares doesn't like to do A2 unless you tell her to, so we open with the A1, but we tell her to always use A2. Demitha is just standard A2 priority, A3 secondary priority. We need to tell her to do that. and then Seeker we can leave as normal. So without further ado, let's get into the run. So we're just going to get set up. It falls into tune around about turn 5, if everything is going to plan. So we can see Ruella's A2 here is always going to be pretty much up all the time. She is in a toxic set, which means we're going to get some poisons out as well. Alika is in here just for raw damage, to be honest. She is one of the hardest hitting epics in the game for Clan Boss because of the extra attack she can do on her A1. She's also got Phantom Touch for a bit more damage here. So we do expect the debuffs to fall off at the start because we're trying to get into rotation. The stun goes to Alika, that's great. We can't cleanse it, unfortunately, but that's not the end of the world here because we're only losing the DPS. It doesn't break the tune. So the debuffs go back on. Now we're at turn 3, give or take. So we're getting close to the turn 5 setup here. We have got some revenge gear on some people. It's obviously very powerful here. We get more counterattacks. So we should have, at the end of this turn, we should be in tune with a bit of luck. There's the extension. Seeker takes his A2. Alika takes her A1. Then Ruella. Then we have Ares. And then the block damage. And now we are in tune. So what should happen? Every single turn, everyone should have crit rate buff. Every single turn, apart from one of Alika's attacks, will be an increased attack. Ideally, we would replace Alika with someone who can self-buff their attack. Or we bring Elva in and then we get loads more options and opportunities. But in this team, I think it's okay to accept that at least one of Alika's damage attacks will be stunned, and also she won't have an increased attack on one of them. There was the stun, then it should basically take her turn and be back in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this run, and then at the end I'm going to come back in and we're going to have a look at where the damage spread is, how much did Ruella actually do, and how well this team can perform. And there we have it, 118 million on probably not the most efficient way we can run this tune. It is on Void, which means we don't have any weak affinity, which we would obviously contest with on non-Void. However, this is pretty strong. Alika is obviously losing one of her turns when she gets stunned, and that is actually quite a lot of damage. She does around about 500 to 600,000 if she double hits on her A1. So if we could bring Elva into this team, then we could run Alika and she would instantly get around about 7 to 8 million more damage per turn, give or take some RNG. We could put Ruella as a stun target rather than having to have a DPS stun target. But if we look at the numbers here, we've got Ruella at 25 million. We've got Alika at 41 million, Ares at 18 million, Dimitha at 7.3, and Seeker at 26 million. Obviously, Seeker and Ruella are in Toxic, so that is making up some of her damage, and obviously Ruella is running quite fast. So that's like a 271 speed Ruella at 25 million here. So it's a really strong team. I think the potential for this team has a lot more than this particular run. We haven't got any blessings on Ruella yet. We're still working on trying to find the best balance of the team. And obviously, if we were to bring Elva in over Ares, then it makes a significant difference. So this was a run that they did last night on stream. We were testing it out, building out the champions. And we can see here, this was a magic affinity clan boss, which means we need to bring a spirit affinity DPS to ensure that Ruella doesn't get the stun. We were running with Val, and halfway through this run, we actually noticed that Ruella was getting the decreased Axie debuff, which meant that she was resisting a couple of her A2s. So I'm pretty sure this could be run more optimally than it actually did. But even on the worst possible affinity, considering that Ruella will weak hit here, we still did 100 million with this team. It's quite impressive. We also ran this team on Nightmare, on Force affinity. Again, we have to swap the affinities around, so we have to bring in a magic-based damage dealer so Seeker doesn't get stunned. Saito came in here, did 24 million. We did about 108 million on Nightmare. So it's a bit fiddly, but it's really, really strong in terms of the damage numbers. It's going to one key pretty much every difficulty, and it will be affinity friendly. So there you go, guys. That is the end of the video. The power of Ruella is really, really strong. She is great in Clan Boss. This A2 ability and A3 ability combined means that you have everything you need to run a very strong Clan Boss team. Even though the team is fiddly, I will be changing to this team full time now because I think there is more potential than my previous team. I think I capped out my previous Jintora team to the point where there was no more damage I could really get from it. I feel I can get more damage from this team. If I can pick up Elva Autumnborn along the way, we are in sort of dreamland. We could probably get a lot more damage. Next up, I'll be probably trying Ruella on Fire Knight, trying to find a very fast speed tune. Ideally, I would have loved to have had Halsring for this test as well, but I haven't pulled that champion as of yet. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was interesting. If you didn't catch my stream last night, we did go into more detail in terms of how we build champions and how we sort of built the speed tune. It's worth watching if you want to put that on your second monitor content. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content from this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification. Any new video will come straight into your feed. We are doing daily videos pretty much every day on this channel. But until then, guys, I will catch you in the next video.